to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Alexander.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Cumin.
Yes.
Lentine.
Here.
Lewis. Morgan.
Yes.
O'Toole.
Yes.
I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second?
Alexander.
Yes.
Henry.
Yes.
Cumin.
I abstain. I was not present.
Lentine.
Yes.
Lewis. Morgan.
Yes.
O'Toole.
Yes.
We will move on to reports. Mayor Roach, do you have anything to report?
Yes, I just returned from vacation and a wedding, and so I know the department heads have got all great reports tonight, so I'll comment as we go along. Thank you.
Thank you. Fire Chief Newman.
Thank you, Council President Henry, Mayor Roach, members of council, and members of the community. Just two items this evening. We held a Heart Saver CPR class at the fire station on Monday, August 17th. 8 citizens participated and were certified in CPR. The next class will be held in October with a date to be determined. The class size is limited to 12 students per class. These classes are free to residents of Richmond Heights. If anybody's interested, they can call me, Chief Newman, at 216-383-6304. Second item, on Friday, August 21st, Division of Fire was notified by Senator Sherrod Brown's office that we have been awarded a $71,000 operations and safety grant by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and FEMA it's called a AFG, or Assistant to Firefighters grant. The grant monies will be used to replace 2 outdated cardiac defibrillator monitors, which are at end of life for service and support, and to add 1 automatic chest compression system. We use that in CPR situations. This will outfit both of our ambulances with the same complement of emergency medical equipment. This particular grant of $71,000 provides 95% funding, and we have a cost share of 5%. So the grant funds $67,620. The cost match is $3,380. But actually the project cost will be about $72,094, and our cost match will be $4,474. This grant will provide our city with an opportunity to replace outdated equipment at a minimal expense to our citizens. Funding for this project actually will originate from the 233 Ambulance Billing Fund, which is subsidized by EMS transport revenues. At the next council meeting, I'm going to request council's consideration for accepting the grant and moving forward with this project. This grant was awarded to Richmond Heights because of the grant writing skill and efforts of Lieutenant Jason Buss. Jason should be commended for his tremendous contribution to the community and the region. Due to Jason's efforts, the Division of Fires obtained the economic resources to be fully staffed, well-trained, and well-equipped. With this grant, Jason has brought about $1.1 million in grant funds to the city of Richmond Heights over the last 4 years. That concludes my report for this evening, and I'll answer any questions if anyone has any.
Thank you. All right. Chief Rowe.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor Roach, members of City Council, residents. A couple of years ago, we had a case up at Hilltop Plaza where a vehicle ran through the front of a store. That case ended up being more than an accident. It ended up being an attempted murder. That went to trial. Finding of guilty, but it went to the appellate court, and the appellate court ruled that there were some technicalities that weren't appropriate and sent it back for a second trial. So this past week, or last week, that trial was conducted. Sergeant Porter, again, was down there practically all week testifying. The jury reached a verdict Monday morning and was finding him guilty a second time. So again, it was good investigative work on the part of our detective bureau. I think it made that all possible. Also, every 3 years we have an audit by LEADS. LEADS is the Law Enforcement Automated Data System. That's the system that we get all of our information from as far as license plate information, driver's license, wants and warrants. Any information that's entered into that system has to be done a certain way. We have to follow LEADS guidelines and NCIC guidelines. Jennifer Schultz, my secretary, is our TAC officer. She's in charge of overseeing all of those data entries. So she obviously was present when the audit was conducted. The first time she did the audit, we've had one since she's been in that position, and we passed it with flying colors. We had no discrepancies. All the information was entered accurately and appropriately. As far as police activities so far this year, our Part 1 crimes, which consist of murder, rape, robbery, assault, burglary, larceny, motor vehicle theft, and arson, they're down 4.7% from the same time last year. Our burglaries are down 72%. The only area that's up are general larcenies, and they're up 14%. Our calls for service are up 5.5%. Our arrests are up 26%. And good news, our traffic enforcement is up 27.2%. I think that's partially due to a couple of the younger officers that we hired the past year and a half. And that translates into our fines for Lyndhurst Court being up 24%, or about $12,351. Our overtime and accumulated time paid out is down 28% from the same period of time last year, or about $17,205. The mall currently accounts for 5.1% of our calls for service and 14.9% of our arrests. Our three major apartment complexes account for 18.6% of our total calls for service. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Chief. Yes.
I have a question for both chiefs, if you will. Over the weekend, there was a water main, I believe, out of commission on Chardon Road. And the reason I know about it is because a creek runs behind my house, and that creek water was running all weekend, real heavy through the creek, down Brush. And I called the fire department, and they didn't know anything about it. And I called the police department, and they didn't know anything about it. So my first concern in calling the fire department was, in the event of a fire in that area, would there have been enough water pressure to take care of that? And secondly, the patrols that are going around the neighborhood, wouldn't they notice this water leak? I went up there, and this was running like across the front of 2 or 3 stores at the shopping center there.
Yeah, I don't know who the dispatcher was that you spoke with, but that...
She said she just got back from vacation, didn't know about it.
Okay, well, that could be without checking, having had a chance to check the catalog. That was called into the water department Friday.
It was called in Friday.
Yes.
Because it is fixed now. I noticed today it's fixed.
They called it in Friday. When they called it in, the water department told them that they had already received a call about it, and they had a crew coming out.
I think the fireman that I talked to must have called. No?
I don't know. I know that we notified the water department.
Oh,
One
okay.
of our guys noticed it when he told the dispatcher to call. At that time, they were told by the water department, the dispatcher was, that it had already been reported.
Oh, good, okay.
But I know that it wasn't fixed Monday because we called again Monday.
Well, today
A
it
reminder
seems to be okay. Yeah,
It still wasn't fixed.
good. What about the water pressure though in a case like that?
Do what here?
We'll do that. And actually, they were working on the main in front of the Dairy Queen.
Yeah.
Over in that area, and it was called in Friday. And we had received calls about it, and actually the dispatch center had been communicating with the water company, and that's why if you called the fire station, the firefighters probably didn't have situational awareness of it, but they did in the dispatch center at that point. sources, alternate water mains in that area where we could have had a sustained water source in the unit.
Okay. I was just curious, and some of the neighbors were curious too. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Seabolt, Commissioner Seabolt.
Madam President and Mayor Roach, I have no report this evening, so thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
I have a question for Mr. Siebel.
Yes.
I know everybody's waiting for my famous report on the Richmond Heights Post Office parking lot.
Yes,
They
we are.
must have really finished it quickly, because I didn't even see them.
Well, that makes two of us. A couple things that I want to talk about very briefly. First of all, the post office notified me personally that it was going to be taken care of August 10th. At my last recall, I believe today is August 25th. The post office parking lot is still in the shape it has been for the last how many years. My concern is this. I went over to talk to the manager of the post office Monday. She did not have time to talk to me. So I came over and looked for Phil. Phil was out on the road doing his job. I then called our law director. I am tired of getting the push around. I hate to even say it, that I think Councilman Alexander mentioned that he'd be very surprised when and if this ever happens. My point is this: not only is the parking lot in bad shape, there's a lamp post with exposed wires. There's broken concrete slabs of sidewalk. The trash bins are duct taped shut. One of these by itself doesn't sound like much. You put them all together, and it's very upsetting to see that. For years, I understand that council's been trying to get this taken care of. I talked with our law director, and Mr. Hunt was kind enough to take my call today and talk about this issue. I believe, and I think he believes also, that we need to start citing somebody. That somebody has to be the property owner. The post office does not own that property. They're renting that property. And I think if we cite them, and legitimately cite them, I mean, don't make up something, obviously. There's enough there to cite. Let our prosecutor deal with it, and I think it'll get their attention. I know we had a talk briefly, Phil, about it. I think everybody has a different opinion of how to go about it. I talked to Congresswoman Fudge, who has helped me get at least this on the schedule of being repaved. I don't know where it's at. And I think the only way we're going to get some of these things done is that if we hit them over the head a little bit and get their attention, just as we've done with the Richmond Park Apartments complex. With that being said, I would like to have an input from either yourself or to Mr. Hunt about the situation.
Well, Todd and I had Mr. Hunt and I had a discussion about it, and let me just say that after I've had a chance to discuss our options with the mayor tomorrow, since he just got back from his vacation, we'll proceed with something at that time.
Mayor, if there's any decision-making, if you could please keep me in the loop, I would greatly appreciate it.
Okay. Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to the Finance Director, Mitch Michaela.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor Roach, members of council, and citizens. Two items tonight I just wanted to update council on, first of which is the status of the fixed asset project. As you are probably well aware, that was one of the issues on past audits going back for some period of time. And when the mayor came on board, he wanted to make sure that that was a very high priority. So as you know, we retained services of Paul's to assist us with that project. And he's done yeoman's work, among other things. This project has been very, very time-consuming and detailed. And so I just wanted to let you know that as of Friday, we had the initial database assembled with the assistance of Zucco, who's basically our CPA from the city uses. And they started with basically collecting data with Paul, putting together, costs, seeing and depreciating, and seeing, basically establishing values for a lot of the things that we had on the books, but not in the way that the auditor wanted to be. Once that was completed, we had to work with Rita, who is responsible for helping us for training and maintaining our financial software packages. It took a while. We were waiting for an update from the software manufacturer to get the data to interface. As of Friday, that data was uploaded into the system and interfaced. Right now, Paul's in the process of reviewing the data to make certain that everything went in as it was supposed to. Also, I will be reviewing that with him. One of the things, because this process has essentially taken a little while, we have added some assets in the time being, so we'll have to make sure that we update that accordingly. But the way that the system will work, from what I've been told, is when we purchase something that qualifies as a fixed asset, like most certainly the equipment that the fire chief will be getting through the grant, when we pay for that through the financial system, when we cut a check for that, there will be a code that we can put in that will populate the fixed asset system with the information from that purchase, and then it'll set it up and depreciate it accordingly. So that's kind of a very interesting and neat feature of the whole thing. So what I wanted to let you know is we're getting pretty close to getting that issue resolved. I do not know whether it is going to, because of the way that the timing worked out, it might still appear on the audit for 14, but I could see that going away for the audit for 15. So that's a good thing. The second thing that I wanted to update you on is the efforts to fill the payroll position. As you know, it's a bit of a challenge in terms of filling that position because it is a part-time position, so a lot of times you'll get people who are looking for more hours, and sometimes when you have people that are looking for part-time, they're looking for fewer hours. So we're trying to find where that range where, we find the proper candidate who is able to work the schedule, wants to work the schedule. And we've identified, at this point, 2 candidates and held an initial interview process with them. They're coming in, there was a screening interview process. I have not met with these candidates yet. I don't believe the mayor has. We do have interviews scheduled on Thursday and Friday with 2 of the candidates, and I guess there is a 3rd candidate that has been identified, but we have, as of yet, not been able to set up an interview process for them. I think the idea is that we can reach out to this person. We would like to them at least a screening interview also around the same time as these other 2 interviews. So hopefully, we will have that position filled shortly. And that's my report for this evening, unless there's any questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Service Director Donald Korniski.
Thank you, Madam President. The City of Highland Heights last week offered an opportunity to the 4 of our service department workers to go to a Ohio LPAT training course, which was for work zone safety. It involved setting up a work zone whenever you see our men on the road. They have cones, they have signs set up. There's a standard that they have to do this by to the state of Ohio. And they had certified, they had a certificate from the class, so very informative class for them. So they got that through, 4 of our guys attended. Over the past 8 months, in our city streets, our repair crews have repaired 14 catch basins, 12 of which have been in the rock zone. There were 12 large joint repairs that they've done throughout the city, and they have about 4 more catch basins to do before they're going to move over to Harris. Harris has about 4 large heaps from last year, winter, that make it feel like Richmond Road. So we're trying to take those out because they're hard on last meeting, I think it was Councilman McKinney had a question about our leaf pickup and whether information is given out to the residents on what should and should not be in a leaf pile. There is information on our website and also in the connection for that to not be putting bricks and shrubs and tree limbs and things like that. But if residents do put those things in there and we can visibly see them, we're hoping that at the top and not underneath, we will be putting a pamphlet on their door to let them know that that has to be removed. We're not going to pick those leaves up until they get those objects out of it. It's not supposed to be in there. The teller on that leaf machine is turning about 800 RPMs. And when the guy standing next to that and a brick goes through there, the damage costs us between $1,500, $1,800, and that's not even the worst part. It's a safety issue for a guy that's standing next to there and something goes through there. So we have to get information out to the residents, and hopefully they'll abide by that. But if not, we're going to let them know if they have to.
Very good.
And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. City Engineer Lee Forney.
Two items, Madam President. The Highland Road share is finally been 100% completed, and I'm still working on trying to get Carrie J signed in place. And as far as the city contract on road work, the contractor's been given his authorization to proceed. I don't expect to see any work before Labor Day, but the emergency numbers have been distributed to council and mayor and all the rest, in case when they restart at the end.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Recreation Director Jessica Gift. I'm sorry.
Good evening, Madam President, Mayor, members of council, and residents. Our department has handed out recreation packets to the elementary school for their Friday folders, so every student will be taking home fall program information home to the families for review. We're in the process of finishing the packets to hand out for the middle and high schools so that every student will have information in their home. We hope this marketing effort will increase awareness about what the city has to offer and boost numbers for the fall programs available. The city edition is still on target to be handed out to residents, or to be in the hands of residents Labor Day week. We hope to get the final edits completed next Monday and Tuesday, with the final draft going to print next Wednesday. We've begun the planning stages of organizing a volunteer appreciation dinner. We would like to recognize all residents who have been helpful to our city. Residents must have volunteered for a city-sponsored event in the past calendar year to be eligible, and are allowed to bring one guest to the event. We are working on catering options and have reached out to Back Roads as a usable option. Finally, I have two final round interviews with the mayor scheduled for this week regarding the recreation board position. This concludes my report, and I answer questions.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you.
Quick question about our pool. When does it close? Is there different hours for the swimming pool?
Yes, we are operating now on weekends, from 1 to 5 o'clock, yes, and that will be through Labor Day,
What's a weekend? Saturday, Sunday?
Saturday, Sunday. And then on Labor Day, we'll be open from noon to 5, and that'll be the last final operating hours.
Thank you.
Thank you. Economic Development Director Crystal Best.
Thank you, Madam President, Mayor, members of council, and community. I'll be very brief today. I wanted to just mention about the gas station at Chardon Road. I know that there are always questions about that, and justifiably so, because we're wondering what's going on with the project. At this point, we are awaiting a report from John Darby, who is with Partners Consulting. This report is required by the Ohio EPA flyers here, so please grab one. We're doing this in conjunction with Richmond Town Square, and we have support from some local businesses, including some banks. Why are we doing this? We're doing this because Richmond Heights has a lot to offer. It has a lot to offer in terms of its residential real estate. It has a lot to offer in terms of its retail opportunities. And it has a lot to offer in terms of development opportunities to bring in business, tax dollars and jobs. And in order to make sure that people know that we have these opportunities, we are working very hard within the community to provide opportunities where you can learn more about what's going on. We will have people there from the real estate community. We will have people there from the Richmond Heights School District. We will be out there on hand to answer questions. There will be light refreshments. It's going to be a very, very nice and informative opportunity for residents and potential people from the region. So I really would encourage you to come, tell your friends and relatives, and please grab a flyer if you have any other questions. And that concludes my report, unless you have further questions.
Okay. Okay, we will move along to the audience. I would like to add a couple things. We are not taking testimonies tonight, and for any comments you have, please limit them to 3 minutes. Otherwise, I'll shut you down. So, and please be civil and brief. So are there any comments?
Pertaining to
Anything? All right. Well, then we'll move on to our old business.
Ordinance 74, 2015, introduced by Mayor Roach, second reading. An ordinance to amend sections 505.17 and 505.20 of the codified ordinances of the City of Richmond Heights and declaring an emergency.
Mayor Roach.
Yeah, this is a rewrite of the vicious dog ordinance, and I think we're going to put this back in committee for discussion, so I'd recommend just moving on second reading.
Yes. So we'll move on to new business.
Resolution number 76, 2015, introduced by O'Toole, first reading. A resolution certifying expenses for the removal of trash, noxious weeds, tall grasses, and or overgrown bushes and hedges upon lands within the City of Richmond Heights and declaring an emergency.
Mr. O'Toole, do you have comments?
Yes, Madam President, I do. This resolution will certify the expenses, which means it goes on to the person's tax duplicate when the city goes out and does cleanup on properties that people refuse to take care of. So this is our way of keeping our whole community clean, and rather than have the people pay for this expense, it goes on to that person's tax duplicate. So that's the fair way to do it. And in one fell swoop, this will go on to the tax duplicates next year for those people. And if they wish to sell that property, these obligations have to be met. So this is the way we're going to get our money back for the labor that our building and our service departments do. So that being said, I will move for suspension of the rules.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cuman?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Move for passage.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cuman?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Resolution 76, 2015 passes unanimously.
Resolution number 77, 2015, introduced by O'Toole, first reading. A resolution certifying costs and fees of the City of Richmond Heights for the collection and disposal of garbage, rubbish, and refuse at residential dwellings within the city to the county fiscal officer for placement on the tax duplicate and for collection and declaring an emergency.
Comments?
Yes, Madam President, what this does is it puts the cost for the collection of your garbage onto your tax duplicate. Everyone in the city who has trash picked up will have an addition to their tax bill. And this is something that the council did 3 years ago when we realized that our budget was in serious trouble.
and we were following what the other 95% of the communities have done to relieve themselves of this cost. So, being said that, I will move for suspension.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cuman?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Move for passage.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Cuman?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Resolution 77, 2015 passes unanimously.
Resolution number 78 in 2015, introduced by Mayor Roach, first reading. A resolution authorizing the city's participation as a member of the College, University, and Education Purchasing Association for a one-year term.
Mayor Roach, comments?
Yes, this is a buyers association that will provide us some discounted purchases and group purchasing, including possible backup for salt. And so I'd recommend.
Move for suspension.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cuman?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Move for passage.
Second motion.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cuman?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Okay. Resolution number 79, 2015, introduced by Alexander, first reading. A resolution reversing the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals with respect to the request for a variance to permit one additional unrelated person to live in a single-family home at 391 Carrie J. Boulevard and denying the variance.
Well, Director?
There's been a few questions by council members as to what a yes or no vote on this particular resolution signifies. First of all, for the audience, it will require a minimum of 4 votes for passage. And 4 yes votes will pass this, 4 or more. If there are not 4 votes for this, that doesn't mean that the variance is granted. There will have to be an affirmative action by this council, by motion or resolution or both, to actually grant the variance and to uphold the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals. So if this resolution fails this evening, I would advise that you can, this evening or at a later meeting, move forward with a motion to approve the variance. And I would ask, if that happens, that you ask me then to draft a resolution with conclusions and findings that would support that decision. So I have done what I was asked to do by the Planning and Zoning Committee, who recommended this to council, and that is to draft this particular resolution, which reverses the recommendation of the Zoning Board of Appeals and denies the requested variance for the one additional person.
Okay.
Motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
Yes.
Cuman?
Yes.
Lentine?
Yes.
Lewis?
Yes.
Morgan?
Yes.
O'Toole?
Yes.
Move for passage. Second.
Alexander?
Yes.
Henry?
I'm going to vote no. My decision is based on the audience opinions, the constituents' opinions, and the things I've heard, my personal experiences, legal perspective, and the political perspective. So I vote no.
Cuman?
I'd like to enter something into the record also, please. Let me begin by saying that no one is preventing Cleveland Diocese from opening a group home in the city of Richmond Heights. Not at Carrie J location, not at anywhere else within the city. The question here, and the only question here, in my opinion, is whether or not the city should grant a variance to allow one additional person unrelated individual to inhabit a single-family home. We as council and as a city, we spend a great deal of time and effort and resources preserving the character and livability of our neighborhoods. We tear down homes that are blighted, we refurbish homes that are abandoned, and we spend a lot of time and expense, like with the grass ordinances, making sure that communities look nice and that people want to live in Richmond Heights. At some point in our city's history, a decision was made and an ordinance was passed that we were limiting the number of unrelated persons to 5. We're not the most, we're not the fewest. But that's the number that our predecessors selected as the number appropriate for our city to preserve the quality of our residential neighborhoods. To date, and to my knowledge, this has never been, there's never been a variance granted to allow more than this number. In my opinion, the phrase fair and equal means that we apply the law equally to everybody. When asking for the variance, the diocese responded that the reason was purely economic in nature. In my opinion, I don't find this a compelling reason as to why the city needs to set an uncomfortable precedent where none before has existed. It's also my opinion that granting the variance would increase both traffic and noise to a level that would create a significant burden to residents that currently live in the city. I would invite the diocese to retool their business model, submit a plan limiting the number of individuals to 5. In that case, I would welcome them to the community. But in the absence of such a plan, having been at the original planning Board of Appeals meeting and having reviewed the minutes of the previous meeting, I find myself in opposition to allowing a variance based solely on economic need, and that would create an unwanted precedent and have a negative impact on the neighbors in the neighborhood. For those reasons, I vote yes.
Lentine.
I have a comment too before I vote. Mine will be briefer. I've been playing with this for some time, 6 weeks or better, I'm guessing. I'm torn in both directions. My concern is this. As a representative, as a councilman, I'm here to represent the people in my ward, which is Ward 2, is where this particular house is located. Part of my decision-making, when I took office, we have to take an oath. And part of that oath says to uphold all laws of said city. Our laws say 5 people. It doesn't say 6. My heart goes out to anyone that has a child that needs this type of care. I think the Rosemary Group Center does an outstanding job. My hat is off to them. I don't think anyone here on this council or in this room has any ill feelings towards that organization. With that being said, I too am going to vote yes to deny this term. My vote is yes.
Lewis.
My opinion is if we were voting to have the home there, I might would vote a different way, but we're not voting to vote on having a home there because it's going to be there. So my vote is no, because I can't see what one more person does. So my vote is no.
Morgan.
The sad part about being at the end of the alphabet is everybody stole what I was going to say. But I would like to state that I wonder if you folks who were planning to enlarge this home to have another room added, if you looked into the fact that Richmond Heights has 129 abandoned homes right now, you probably could have got 2 and have a place for 10 people to stay, rather than going to all the expense and aggravation of trying to get this house changed to 6 from 5. So that would be a suggestion, but like my colleagues, I also will vote yes.
O'Toole.
As a member of the Planning and Zoning Committee of Council, we made a statement that at some point, the lowest rung on the totem pole has to push back. And clearly, this vote has already been decided. I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote yes also.
We have 5 yeses and 2 noes.
Okay. So, resolution, we're done with. Resolution number 79, 2015 passes 5-2. Any additions? Any correspondence? Meeting adjourned. Good night, and thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.